got my scarf, got my old coat. I got a footy game to go to. Footy's on, footy's here again. Back to greet me like an old friend. And well, that's the thing about, that's what I like about. Yeah, that's the thing about football.
94.7 The Pulse. Across Geelong, the Surf Coast and Bellarine Peninsula, welcome to the match of the day, broadcast on The Pulse. Now, here to bring all the action to your radio, our team on 94.7 The Pulse.
Yes, good afternoon.
That's you, Daryl.
And welcome to everybody, listeners and viewers out there this afternoon, and from AllinOne Oval out here this afternoon. Yes, we're not at Footrot Flats, Anarchy today. Unfortunately, some communication adjustments need to be made out there before we'll be going back out there. Unfortunately, that's part of their 100-year celebration, which would have been another good day out there this afternoon. But today, we are also blessed with a very nice day out here at Corio, and looking forward to a game against Corio and the Werribee Centrals. Werribee Centrals haven't won one yet. Corio, I think, have had a couple along the way, and will need to improve after their previous two efforts on the last two weekends. But also joining me here this afternoon at this stage is Richard Grubby Cations. Welcome to you, Grub.
G'day, Smitty. G'day, viewers. And I tell you what, I wanted to come here all along. He's all outvoted it and had to go to Anarchy, and now I'm here when I wanted. We're going to have a good day.
And also Arch is enjoying his time here in the box with us at the moment. And Arch, a good game last week, but we're looking forward to hopefully something similar this afternoon.
Thanks, Dale. Good to be here, mate. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy we ended up coming out here because, obviously Corio only the one win and Werribee not winning a game, so we should see two very hungry football teams go at it here today.
Before we go any further and get into our game coverage, we've got a special guest here this afternoon. Phil Boyle is here, and he is the club historian. Is that what we're calling you, Phil? Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've been collecting the records for about 30 years. We've got our past players today. They got that back up and running about 10 years ago, and it's been well attended, and it's good to see. There's going to be another big crowd today, and quite a few reunions on today. They've got 4 teams with reunions, and yeah, it's good to get back to the club once a year, and all of the past Devils have been coming back and enjoying themselves, sharing their stories, which get bigger and bigger each year, and they've been great days.
So what you're saying is most of the ones that would have played in those times have all come back. Did you have much or a good response to it all?
The last 10 years it's been growing more and more, and every time everyone comes they say they're never going to miss another one because they've been that good of days. It's just good to get back. A lot of us only come back the once a year, but it's just great to get back and talk about catch up with old teammates and old friends and talk about the old times we had.
Well, you're right about having a magnificent time. I've been to a couple of them while we've been here, and they just have a ball. And as you say, some of the stories are not quite as true as they used to be, but they have a great time there. You played a bit of footy yourself here, Phil, obviously, before you became the club historian. But I think you played in the 2004 Reserves Premiership, did you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I started playing in '91 for Corio and played in the senior 92 grand final, 93, and missed out in the 95, unfortunately. It wasn't good enough, but they had a fantastic team there, and I pulled up the pin in about 2005 or 6.
Okay, what about the under-18s? You play in the under-18s?
Yeah, played an under-18 grand premiership, the first ever for the club in 86, led by Bill Benson, captained by Alan Moroney. We had a fantastic team that year, and it was a culmination of a lot of good juniors that all came together that year and got the first one on the board. Yeah,
well, we're talking about past players, and you said you've had a few to have a look at today, but the main one, obviously, is the 95 flag, and that's the big part of Corio history because it's the only senior premiership that they have won. What type of coach was Ticker?
Well, unfortunately, it was our only premiership. We come close quite a few times, but that team that year was just incredible. It was a build-up of a couple of years before that, and we signed up Ticker to be coach, and he just was the right guy for the right time, and got everyone together. And it's easy to sit back and say that coaches premierships are given to you, but they're never given to you. A lot of coaches can lose premierships quite easily if they're not the right coach. Ticker did a lot right that year. He got everyone on board. He had everyone believing, had them all fired up every week. Bar some injuries, we probably would have went through champions. So
Well, I think you might have only lost the one game.
we did. We lost that one game, second last game of the year out at Werribee up there. I ended up in hospital with concussion.
Okay.
That finished my year, but thanks Werribee. But yeah, that was the only game we lost, and we had about 5 or 6 out that game. So it was the third time we played him in the home and away.
I told Smithy
Season,
that.
yeah.
It was you played them 5 times that year.
Correct.
And I can't remember the Corio game, but the 2 at Werribee were won under a kick, I think. They were probably the best 2 games I've ever seen for a long, long time. And then I think Werribee got a bit of confidence with that, and you certainly trounced that out of them in the second semi, then the grand.
Yeah, that first game up there against them, it was an incredible game. Just 2 fantastic sides going at it, and I think it was the highest standard game I've seen in GDFL at that stage for maybe forever. But yeah, they were a very good side, and I think that's forgotten a lot. That Corio won the grand final quite comfortably, but they were a bloody good team, and I reckon still now they'd be asking themselves what went wrong, because they had a premiership team there in waiting, and they just didn't get the job done because Corio was in such good form at that time.
Well, if you look through all the great Werribee sides, obviously you pick the sides that won the premierships. But that side is in it with Wilsons, Jackson and all those blokes, VFA players.
Correct.
And they were a good side, but I know what did go wrong. They just weren't good enough.
Yeah.
This bloke here had them firing, and they just weren't good enough. And Corio had... Well, I was going to go through these with Ticker, but blokes like Nevada, he was going to play in the 2s today, Nevada. He's still going.
Yeah, correct. He's still playing. He's doing really well. It's a bit like Sid Jones, but yeah, he was thinking about playing today. I think he's still playing Super Rules, but Nevada came back from VFA that year to play with us, and the players we had in that team were just incredible. John Cousins, Tigger up forward, Vlado Semdeniv in the back line, Ash Davey on ball.
Oh, wasn't he a good player?
Yeah, he's Dave Cousins, the list, Ian Cockrell. I mean, you could name more of them, really. It was just an unbelievable team.
But he just used to run whacking blokes, Cockrell, didn't he?
Well, that might have been Greg. Ian was he was a bit softer, but not softer towards the other players. He was a gun footballer, but yeah, he went all right.
But you like when Ray didn't win in the tap outs that day because Wilsons was playing. But when the ball hits the ground, you got Johnny Cousins, you've got Nevada in there. They're very hard to beat in the centre.
Yeah, I went back and watched that game. I remember it on the day, but I went back and watched it a few years back, and Ray Robinson's first half was unbelievable. The toughness that he showed, and it was that type of rough and tough football back then. But he made all their players pull their shoulders back a little bit, just put them back off the ball a little bit. And his first half was as good as anyone in that game.
Well, from a Corio perspective, you'd say rough and tough. From a Werribee perspective, I say he was a dirty mongrel who used to whack blokes, be whacking Wilsons behind the ear all day. Unbeknownst, Wilsons would never fight on the football field.
Yep.
But by geez, he was pretty good off it. So, and I always remind Ray, very, very lucky Ray didn't dong you.
He was a gun, yeah, and if he wanted to, he could probably hurt you. So yeah, Ray was probably pretty lucky in that stance, but he didn't. Wilsons didn't take a backward step. He kept trying his guts out that day.
Yeah,
they're just up against it that day.
I've got 2 blokes I want to ask you about that I knew that played here, and I haven't seen them since. One was Dale Hewen. Whatever happened to Dale Hewen?
Dale, I think he played in 2 or 3 reserve premierships.
Yeah.
Back in the big days of the Corio reserve football when they won 6 in a row. I'm not sure if he's got to a past players' day in the last 10 years, but yeah, his name pops up in the record books, but I'm not sure if he's been back. I haven't had any contact with him.
And the other bloke who punched me up out here in front of the Dunny boys years ago was Stewie Ray. What happened to Stewie? He's a terrific bloke.
Yeah, I haven't sided to Stewie either. He played in all 6 of those premierships, along with George Hutchinson. They're the only 2 that played in all 6.
Okay.
Don't know what Stewie's story is these days, but yeah, he hasn't been back to the club for a long time.
Okay. I remember one of them ones was against Belpost Hill. George started a fight just before half time.
Yeah, I hear the stories. So I think George might have got cracked, and half the reserve side of Corio were chasing that player around.
Yeah, they were. He's here today too, George. Now, the bloke that coached him that day, and you wouldn't believe this, but we just happened to have him sitting behind me here. He snuck in the box. Wayne Ticker-Tyquin, coach of the premiership side. Obviously here today to celebrate that with you. What did it mean to you, just as a coach and as a person, actually, because you were still playing?
On that day, yeah, well, I started playing football here all the way through the juniors, and then started senior footy as well. And I went away, and I was actually sharing a house with Mark Ettridge, and back then when I was a bit younger, and I said, I'm going to go and have a crack at the GFL. And then I said to Butter, I said when I was leaving, because I was living at his house, I said, I'll come back and coach, so don't worry about that. But I just thought the time was right to come back, because I was at that time, I'd had 2 years at Birregurra and coached them, and wanted to come back closer to coach, and so it just worked out pretty well.
A few hundred goals later?
Yeah, just that up.
I remember that year, I reckon Gareth Buck held you to about 0-1, 1-3 or something like that, and he actually did really well in the semi-final and the grand final. He held you to 10-10. Would that be close?
Oh, I think so, something like that.
Now, I know what happened, and you'll probably deny it, but I know the psyche behind Werribee was, we're just not quite good enough to beat these blokes, but they've got a couple of rabbits in their side. So if we run around and whack them, and they take their eye off the footy, that's the only way we can beat them. Now I remember Jock Ryan, he gave Sharky one, and I'd never known Sharky not to give one back, but he didn't. Not today, Jock, he said, we're not allowed. Is that what you focused on before the game, play the football?
That was the whole season, because I knew that we come together, and the reputation for Corio was to unsettle them, start fights and stuff like that. And so the whole way through the season is what we made sure that the discipline side of things would be only through the football, not through the fists. And that showed all the way through, because at the start of the season when I come here to coach, I think the papers, all the journalists were riding us off and saying about East playing the previous year, and then we, I think it was 6-0 or something at one stage, and then they started to get on board. But we had a very talented side, very tough side. If we wanted to turn around and have punch-ons, we would have been right anyway. So,
well, yeah. Well, that's, as I say, that's what Werribee were attempting to do, but they were, and a lot of people in them days won't believe this, but you were just too disciplined.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way it went. You're probably in a position, you played, you kept playing, you coached, and now through your son Matty, who's played at Inverleigh and Bannockburn for a lot of years, you've actually kept in touch watching football like it is. How would that side of your side go today, and what's the difference in footy? People say it's soft. I don't believe that, but there's a lot of different things happen. But how would your side in them days go today?
Well, I've watched GDFL footy for nearly 47 odd years, from juniors all the way through to senior footy and retirement now, obviously. And I still rate the 95 side as the best side in the GDFL that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I coached or played here, but the players that missed out on that day could easily walk into any senior football side, and that were the players that missed out. So, we had 22 players on the ground that I honestly believe. I've seen the Bellpost Hills, their era of winning, well, what was it, 6 or 7 in a row or something like that that did. And I honestly believe, like, we had match winners everywhere. Like you just named off some of them, like Johnny Cousins, Mark O'Toole, Mick O'Toole.
We had 3 centre-half forwards.
Yes. Wow. I mean, and the players that missed out were Dave Wormsley, Greg Cockrell. There was quite a few that missed out. Lonnie Cousins. Yeah, Phil was injured, so there was quite a few that missed out that would have easily walked into any other side, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, at the start of the year, we out of 45 players, I think we had 35 senior footballers that turned up that thought they were going to be playing seniors that year.
Wow.
So there's a lot of competition that year, and that's probably what helped with the result as well.
Just a question for you, Phil. A couple of years prior, obviously losing a few grand finals that you played in, how do you keep that team morale together, and do you keep the same kind of core players and just add the little bits and pieces you were missing to go again and then eventually get that premiership?
Well, we lost 92, and we lost probably half the team. There was a bit of problems off the field, and after the grand final, we had riot vans in the driveway to our club rooms at the end of the night, preempting problems, but it wasn't too bad, but they thought they might have been. But yeah, there was a bit of argy-bargy going on, so we lost half our committee and half our team that year, and we relied almost totally on local talent, Corio footballers, and made the grand final again that year. So everyone wrote us off for that year, saying they're going to be no good. They've lost. And we lost some great footballers, Foppiani, Stewart, McDowell, Benson, and the list has kept going on and on. So we,
Do you think the culture was better that second year?
Yeah, it probably was. I think there was a lot more camaraderie. And we had probably 18 of the 20 guys all from Corio. So McNamara and Rod Boothroyd were our coach, and they got along well with the playing group. So there was a lot of harmony there, and we were playing good football. So that helped in keeping everything together. So
And then you lost that next year after.
Lost again to
And
North.
then, so that team that lost against North, how was that? Was that similar team that ended up winning the premiership in 95?
Yeah, a few of those left. We kept that team together and probably had a really good chance of winning the grand final that year, but we lost, I think, 6 of our 7 big players to broken bones and injuries and other reasons. So we limped in the finals and got smashed. Signing the big fella over here, Tigger, that next year, we could have probably easily crumbled after that year, but the hype around having Tigger sign up not only kept all those players there, but brought some of the other players that had left the year before back as well. So it just culminated in just this incredible team. So we had all our juniors coming through right at that same time. Our under-18s had played in, I think, 5 of the last 6 grand finals in the under-18s, so they were starting to come through. So it was just a combination of just a lot of local footballers.
That'll be blokes like Barry O'Toole that come through the 18s. I remember watching him play the under-18s.
He was a little later. He played in the last under-18 grand final that year.
Yeah.
But we had John Cousins and Dave Cousins and Mark O'Toole and Mark Brown and quite a few others, Lonnie Cousins. So, we had a lot of good juniors coming through. And some of the old fellas also came back that had been at Corio, 7 or 8 years earlier, that had all made pledges to come back at some stage, and that was the year, and it just culminated into something real special.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. We all know the Cockies and the Cousinses and all the champion players you had. There's a couple of blokes here that I don't know. So both you blokes will help me out. Mark Brown, you just mentioned.
Mark Brown was a junior at Corio. He was a very talented, underrated player. He got guest video player of the game that year in the grand final.
Wow.
Could have gone to about, I think, 10 players, but to his credit, he was right up there amongst the best on the ground that day, so he got that award. And he wasn't a flashy player, he wasn't a big marker, but he read the ball well, and he was great on the ground, and got the ball out with handball to a lot of players. So he was underrated, and he almost got best on ground for the whole ground.
What about Peter McCone?
Yeah, Pete, he was a hard nut. He'd just run straight at you. He was our back pocket. Not that great on his skill level, but at times, just hard at it.
And the fullback, you'll have to pronounce his name, Big Vlado.
Vlado Semdeniv. He was an absolute beast of a footballer. He had no football talent, as in natural talent. He had none whatsoever, but I've never known a footballer to have such competitiveness in him, and he would just give his all. He had incredible courage. He was just a ferocious tackler, ferocious at the battle, and he won 2 best and fairest before that year, and I think he won that best and fairest as well with joint with John Cousins.
Okay, and Roche, was that David Roche? Did he play in the Anarchy Grand Final in '89? Same bloke.
Yep, same one.
He's a good player too.
Yeah, our back 6 on grand final day were untouchable. They were solid as the whole back 6.
Well, bloody ball didn't get down there much.
Oh well.
Did you kick 100 that year?
Yeah.
133, I think.
Jeez, what'd you miss a few, did you? Andrew Williams went to West. He's a good little player. Is that the same bloke?
Yeah, he played in my premiership side at Birregurra, so I brought him across with me.
And one of my favourite players, love watching this play, was Steve O'Keefe. He was a good player, Steve O'Keefe.
Yeah, very good forward, great leader, read the ball so well, knew when to lead, and some of the stats, I went back over there the other week, and I think one of the games he had 18 marks. In one of the games, he was one of our best players and most consistent. And he was one of our 3 centre-half forwards. We had Ash Davey, Steve O'Keefe and Mark O'Toole all across the half-forward line, and it was like you could have played any of them in that main position. Yeah,
and then kicking it to him, I suppose. But look, when you look through it, there's some names in there that have synonymous that have kept up at Corio, like Ricky Neville, who's Corio for years and years and years. I think he was a goal umpire, become a goal umpire.
He went to
for a while.
AFL, I think.
Yeah, there was another one in here I can't find. He'd been there for a long, long time, but they sort of stated that, well, Mark Etheridge, I knew Mark pretty well. Was he a good player? But I didn't think he was much good.
No, he was all right, but he's got a big nose, so every time he ran into the pack, he got it broken.
Butter was actually a gun. He was
right, very good.
He was right at the end of his career then. He sort of limped over the line, but through the 80s, he was one of our best players and just a super player.
And Mick Mostert, he stayed here for a long time, didn't he?
Yeah, Mozzie, yeah. I just walked in the gate with him, actually.
He actually went to Western Australia, so he left a couple of years later and then came back and played some few more years in his later years.
I could do this all day, but we're running out of time. We are running out of time, boys. Look, thanks very much. I'm not going to say have a good day over there today because I know it's going to be a great day. They're all going to come up to you, Tickham, and say what a great coach you were and all that sort of stuff.
I don't think they'll do that.
Maybe not. But look, boys, thanks for coming in.
Tickham will tell him.
Yeah, well, he's probably already spoke to a few on the way in. But
I don't have to say much, mate. I've got to walk in there and just realise that I am the only premiership coach in there.
Yeah, well, there you go. I thought that would come out. Boys, thanks very much for coming in. It's been a delight to talk to you. I wish we could do it all day, but thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having us on.
All good, thanks.
Good on you. Thank you. And we're going to go to a break or we're going to keep going? We might take a short break down there. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Only on 94.7 The Pulse.
Just had a good interview there with two legends of the club, as we can say. Definitely Wayne Tyquin, a coach, premiership coach, and as I said, the players that he brought to the club and were involved here obviously were really good. So yeah, we've got a couple other games which we need to go through this afternoon, and the first one is the Giants. They take on North Geelong. The Giants are at home. North Geelong undefeated at this stage of the season and going very, very nicely. The Giants with some work to do, and at home they may be giving them a chance. Arch, how do you see this one going this afternoon?
Yeah, it's a very interesting matchup, isn't it, Grub? I know we went and saw Geelong West play the other week, and we kind of beat Winchelsea, and you know we didn't think they were amazing, but we thought they just got the job done, and it was a really even team performance. So yeah, you know, I think against the undefeated North Geelong, it's going to be a really interesting game, but I reckon North Geelong should get it done.
North Geelong, Grub, they've gone pretty well, aren't they? They've been able to establish themselves as obviously winning all the games, but they just seem to have a better balance with a few inclusions during the course of the year.
Yeah, and I think some of their players, like I forget his name, Cooper Vaughan.
Yep.
They look like they're going to develop into good players, and I think they've developed a little bit earlier than what most people thought. And there's a few others with him. You know, I think there's I don't know how many of them got in the interleague squad, the young fellas, but you know that's helped. They've recruited nicely, and as I've said each week, they're well coached. West, I'm probably on the same line as you, Arch. They're not that far away. They're maybe a couple of players out of the top five, maybe a couple more. And then again, the way the season's going, they could finish 11th or 12th. You just don't know. But at this stage, they're playing okay, but they're just not playing well enough to beat a Barnstorm and North Geelong at this point.
I've actually already started, Grub. They
start at 1 o'clock.
today,
Yeah, because I think the GFL are playing after them.
They are.
And I
Gotcha,
think
so-
then there's a women's game after that as well, I think. I'm not too sure.
So a live score for that game, we have second quarter just started, 1-4-10 Geelong West to 4-3-27 North Geelong leading that game.
Well, there you go. So that they have started well. As I said, they'll be well and truly finished before we get off the air this afternoon.
But like 4 goals through to 1-1, that's pretty much what we just in our summary, wasn't it? Like you'd hope it wouldn't blow out. And if they can play their best footy and stay within that, it'll be a good day for
You
them.
don't know whether North Geelong may have had a bit of a breeze. Well, there's definitely a bit of a breeze here this afternoon. So whether that's effect, but blokes like Blair need to have a big say in their forward structure, because obviously they need to kick goals if they're going to win the game of footy.
Yeah.
But they're a chance and they're at home, so let's hope that can continue. Thompson, the last couple of weeks, Grub, have been defeated. One we thought may have gone down to the wire against Belmont Lions, but then last week against Belpost Hill up there, probably a bit of surprise to most of us. And they take on Winchelsea, who again seem to be in the mix in most games, but just can't win them all.
They're very similar to West. I think they might have a little bit more outside talent than West, but and if they all perform really, really well, you know, I think they're a better side than what they've shown so far. And I think towards the end of the year, they'll play a lot better. Who are they playing?
Winchelsea and Thompson?
Thompson were a bit stiff against Belmont with the wind saga. They didn't have a lot of the wind that
The
day.
Wingate.
Wingate, or bottom of the wind harbour, or whatever you want to call it. And I didn't think they were too bad, but last week they got beaten by a side who, up until the week before, hadn't won a game and looked like they were struggling. They came out and beat Werribee at Werribee, and then they beat Thompson at Thompson. So I don't know whether it was Thompson. I know they've got a lot of injuries still, Thompson. That's not their best side they're playing now. And that's what happened to them last year. They scraped into the 5 because of injuries and then took all before them. But, yeah, to be quite honest, I think Thompson should probably win.
Should.
But where's it at?
At Thompson?
Yeah, at Thompson, you'd have to go for Thompson. You can't keep good sides down for too long. I don't think 2 losses in a row. I didn't foresee it, and I certainly can't foresee 3.
Is there Ruckman back in this week?
No, he's still got
Jarvis,
a
no.
stress fracture of the foot or something.
Oh,
I think it was originally general soreness, and then it's now developed into something into the foot.
So actually it probably was that, but they weren't
Yeah,
going to say
exactly.
anything
Yeah,
up
well,
front.
that's an indefinite injury. That could be 3 weeks, could be 8.
Especially
You
as a
just don't
ruckman,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know.
So Archie, sorry mate, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, good wrap up there by Grub. I think Winchelsea, they would have got some great confidence over their win 2 weeks ago against Corio, and was their real first, display of good quality football, 4 quarters, nearly winning by 100 points out there, kicking 23 goals that have done them the world of good for confidence. Obviously, going down last week to Anarchy, but I don't know. I think Thompson, losing that game against Belmont, it was pretty tight. They might have got a little bit unlucky, but then last week no one really picked Belpost Hill to go over the top of them. They've got some great form at the moment. I think at home Thompson should get it done, but I guess we don't really know. I mean, last week we all picked Thompson against Belpost and ended up losing by nearly 40 points. So I'm going to go Thompson this one, but it's not a certain tip, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think Thompson win this game, money, because it's at home and they've got a little bit that they need to prove, because they need to obviously get themselves entrenched in top 3 if they're going to have anything to say. Although, as I said, last year they scraped in and went all the way, so they can do it. They have confidence in that. Well, the game that we're supposed to maybe be covering this afternoon was Anarchy versus Bannockburn. As I said, both clubs have got a couple of wins on the board, I think, so far this season. Anarchy seem to be thriving now with Andrew Mosley kicking goals regularly each week. So I'm thinking today, if Bannockburn have got any chance, they need to keep him to less than 2 goals, because I think if he gets any more, then Anarchy will win out home.
Yeah, look, they've got their tails up, Anarchy. They started off with a loss here, and in that second quarter when they kicked pretty crooked, they could have probably put the game on ice, and they didn't win. And I think a lot of us sat back and thought, well, they're just going to be Anarchy. They might go near the 5. But all of a sudden, they've had a couple of really, really good wins. And that last week's win was a little beauty. And with Bosley, I didn't know this, but apparently Bosley didn't have a pre-season last year. Well, he's had one this year, and it's really shown what a really good footballer he was, or is. Obviously, Jake Mawson, I think he's a bit shrewder than he looks, I reckon, Jake. He's a very, very hard job when you've got 48 points and I don't know what they're playing at, but
48.
They're at 48. So
Yep.
it's a very hard job to in and out and do what you're going to do. It's a big day out there. And look, Bannockburn have been reasonable, but they haven't been great. They've got a lot of young kids, and I know they will improve. You know what? Out at Anarchy, in front of possibly 1,000 or 2,000 people, 100 years, they've been a great club of the GDFL. I'm going to go for Anarchy.
Yeah, I think Grub summed it up pretty well. I think just for the occasion, Anarchy should be able to get this done. I think Bosley's now got his tail up and he's going to be hard to stop. So, no, Anarchy for sure.
They Jake and Josh and Jesse Mawson both played last week.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so they weren't in their side today.
No.
Long, I don't think, was in their side today, and I don't think Davey was. So
No.
they've lost a bit of their core or their experience or their, I suppose, the quality in their side.
The big fellow that played well out here, Detman,
Yep.
he's not playing either, I don't think.
Long
Okay.
is in the side today.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was there last week. I thought I didn't see him when I read through the sides today. So, well, that's a bonus for him because he's still playing. Now, the other bloke, who's the other bloke that played the halfback flank here the day we saw them? He played pretty well from that day. He's a left footer, I think, just pretty ready to play well. I can't think. I'll have a look.
It'll come up.
It'll come back, yeah. No. Anyway, we'll move on because both sides are out in the ground fairly early this afternoon. So we are starting at 2:10, do we? Or not?
Yeah.
Just 10:10, okay.
10 past or 2
All right,
o'clock?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Okay, well, we better keep rolling then. Inverleigh at home this afternoon take on the Belmont Lions. Inverleigh have been okay. The games that they've lost haven't been by big margins, and they take on the undefeated Belmont Lions. Should be an interesting clash.
Where'd you say it was at, sorry?
This is at Inverleigh.
That gives them a real chance. Like last week, they were down most of the week against Werribee. Most of the game, they were just a bit down. And when it really counted, they played some really good football. And they were very impressive. They looked like they probably had the game for most of the game. The East fought back a couple of times, being the good side that they are. But, you know, I can't find anything that...
I don't know. It's an interesting one. Day. Great win they had out there. And Snezkov was so clean in the wet. And obviously it shows again they're kicking 5 goals last week. Dixon with 4. So I don't know, though. Belmont, yeah, it's hard to tip against them. Obviously played really well last week. I felt at the end of the game last week, I thought East was going to run over the top of them at one stage. So if that was a concern or if that was just a blemish for maybe 5 or 10 minutes when they got a run on East, 3 or 4 goals. But no, I think Belmont should be too good today.
Well, when we talk about Snezkov, when he came in, was it last year he came in?
Yep, he might have played
a couple of
last
times.
year.
And I must admit, I watched him run around. I thought, hello, Morey's put his son in to give his kid a game here because he struggled. He struggled a bit to get the momentum of the game. And then this year, how much has the kid improved? His development has been unbelievable. And the longer he goes, I think the better he'll get. And he might turn out to be a really, really good player.
Well, he's definitely got the size about him, so that's the big thing. By all reports, once he gets the ball in hand, he's a good kick for goal.
Yeah.
So, again, that'll be something that he'll just need to continue to work on. Obviously, once the ball hits the ground, he's going to have to work harder at what he does at ground level to make sure that he's at least providing the contest that he needs to and hold things up so his smaller players around him can win possession of the ball. I agree. Belmont Lions, to me, last week, without... I suppose they never looked. They looked in control of the game. They were challenged at different stages, but they always found a way to score that goal when it was required. I reckon through their ruck division and their on-ball division, they've got some quality there, which provides some options for their forward line getting the ball in quickly. So Inverleigh will need to do some work through the middle of the ground because once Marnie and those sort of blokes, Beasley, Thompson. Was it Murdoch or something?
He was tagging.
Those sort of blokes,
tagged.
yeah, they're